over the last 7 games, going back to last season, the Wolverines 2-5, a minus 75-point differential. Wow. All these numbers, the worst of any 7-game stretch under Coach Harbaugh. Charles, you had this to tweet out after that blowout loss to Indiana.
Oh, man, hurt my heart.
Did he go back? Is he watching it?
Yeah, I think he watched a quarter or two, but I don't know if he watched the whole thing. I don't think he watched the whole thing.
Is that good parenting or bad parenting?
Hey, man, the man just looks at what he sees on TV, man. If he don't like it, he turns it off.
All right, Coach, let's use one of your phrases. Let's pop the hood on Michigan right now. I'm going to start with you, Charles. What's the first thing you see when you pop that Wolverine hood?
Well, there's a couple of things, man. You know, when you talk about this Michigan team and can they get back on the right track, we've talked about the coaching a little bit, Coach, but it's also on the players as well. And when I look at a couple of key things for this team, what they have to do better, penalties shows up number one. This team has 34 penalties for 335 yards on the season. Last year, we talked about what those yards means in terms of first downs, whether giving first downs or giving them up. So they got to stop committing so many turnovers. And then in the red zone, 82% of the time they're giving up touchdowns, and 95% of the time, touchdown or field goal. So they got to bow up in the red zone. They got to stop teams from scoring. And if they can't do that, you cannot win. So those are 2 categories. If this team's going to turn it around, they got to get better in those areas, Coach.
Speaking of 2, there's 2 places you're looking.
Yeah, there's when a coaching staff is hired, at the end of that tenure or during that tenure, they're going to be successful or they're going to fail. 2 reasons. You have to develop and implement a culture. Number 2, you have to acquire talent. It's called talent acquisition and development. You watch them play. They're 2-5 in the last 7 games. I think it's time to blow it up. I think it's time to really evaluate the culture, dig deep. 2-5 is not. There's something going on. And once again, I said this a couple weeks ago, don't start saying there's bad players. That's not fair. Now, you do have to evaluate your staff, your assistant coaches, because when you start talking about talent acquisition, that's called recruiting. Are you recruiting the right players that fit your puzzle, or are they being developed? And those are the kind of conversations, and I'm not sure everything is fixable. Everything is fixable. I'm not sure you have the next 2 weeks, but you have got to really lift that hood up and say, okay, tell me about our culture. Is it the right culture? Do we need to change? Second, talent acquisition. Are we recruiting our players? And as important as recruiting them, what are you doing? How's your weight room? How's your nutrition program? How's your training staff? And how are your assistant coaches?
Coach, you say blow it up. If you're a Michigan fan, if you're a neutral, blow it up says get rid of Harbaugh. I'm not sure that's what you meant.
I didn't say that. Because anytime you say that, and I've heard people say it,
sure.
Where do you go? You know, those are all the questions. He is a great football coach. He's won 70% of his games in the NFL. You can't all of a sudden say he's a bad football coach. That's not fair. But there's things involved in it. Football programs are complicated. I always tell people they're living organisms. You don't just say that's a team. That team is changing. Are you solid in culture? Are you solid in talent acquisition and your plan? If not, fix it.
Well, if you talk about blowing it up, it could be, you know, not as far as the coaching staff, but it could be changing your quarterback.
Which they're doing.
This is one thing that Harbaugh is used to. He had this problem. He had this situation with Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith in the NFL. And he decided to go with Colin Kaepernick because Colin Kaepernick, he felt like, gave that team the best chance to win. And when Alex came back from injury, people said, oh, well, you can't lose your job to injury. Well, that's kind of blowing things up. So we thought Milton was the guy. We talked about the interview that I did with Harbaugh early in the season. He was high on Joe Milton, and we thought he was going to be the guy to lead this team through the season. But now he's had to make a decision to go with McNamara, who's given this team a spark going forward.
I think the quarterback is a perfect way to look at the program. Okay, they've been there for, 5-6 years. Okay, and you say, okay, talent acquisition, did they recruit the right? Because they keep going through quarterbacks. Yeah. Are they evaluating it the right way, or are they developing the quarterback the way they should? Those are the hard questions. I always say those are easy questions, complicated answers.
Yeah. Cade McNamara, though, he looked like a guy in charge of that team through the overtimes, on the sidelines as well. He's the guy who gets the start for the Wolverines today.
Start your Saturday strong at 10 Eastern with a legendary college football lineup on the Big Noon Kickoff Show. Big Noon Kickoff on Fox.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here. College Football on Fox.